believe that a monument to a Confederate traitor to this country beautifies Washington, D.C. They believe that a monument to a Confederate traitor to this country beautifies Washington, D.C. I got a question. I don't know if it's answerable, and I'll leave that to you. I will read through the comments and see what your perspective is here. But why is the Republican Party so chock-full, filled to the brim with traitors, with people who revere literal traitors to the United States of America, people who betrayed the Constitution of the United States? They are reinstalling a statue in the nation's capital of Albert Pike, a Confederate general, a famed Freemason who had a role in starting the Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacist, racist traitor to America.
Albert Pike is responsible for inflaming racial tensions that were the official cause of the U.S. Civil War. Albert Pike is responsible for inflaming racial tensions that were the official cause of the U.S. Civil War.
Firing specifically black leaders in our government and replacing them with white people.
Greetings, love and peace. From the Cornish temple chambers, this declaration is issued in direct response to the recent reinstallation of the Albert Pike statue, a monument once torn down during the unrest of the COVID years. Its return to public ground has stirred renewed falsehood and slander, words spoken in ignorance and malice against my ancestor, whose legacy I now rise to defend, Mr. Jesse Dollemore. I speak to you directly, but I also speak to all who taken part in this dishonoring of my ancestor. You have labeled Albert Pike a traitor, a white supremacist, and even claimed he was associated with the Klan. Each of them is built upon misunderstanding, misrepresentation, or deliberate omission of historical truth. Let us begin with treason. Albert Pike was accused of betraying the Constitution during the Civil War, yet a full presidential pardon was granted to him after careful review by the highest office in the land. A pardon is not a symbolic gesture. It is an acknowledgement that the individual has been reconciled, that the charge of treason has been lifted, sir. To continue calling him a traitor is to undermine the authority of the Constitution itself and to ignore the judgment and or order of the president who granted that pardon. Further evidence comes from the Battle of Pea Ridge, the very charge that may be used to call Pike a traitor. Witness testimony from Union soldiers, those who fought against him, admitted clearly that no atrocities occurred under his command. Only one man was scalped, a tragic but isolated event. This testimony directly influenced the decision for his pardon. To ignore this evidence is to reject sworn witness and lawful investigation, sir. And yet, despite this, you, Mr. Dollemore, have claimed treason. You claim to be a Marine, so you have taken an oath, but you do not wish to follow the orders of your own United States president. Your accusations, therefore, are not only historically inaccurate, but lack the very foundation of legal and civic authority. Next, the claim of white supremacy. Albert Pike lived in a time definitely by rigid caste systems. Chief Justice Roger Taney's infamous ruling in Dred Scott versus Sanford stated that a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. Pike refused to accept this false hierarchy. He stepped away from the artificial labels of black and white and identified himself as Scottish, not white, as he found the Scottish Rite abandoned because everybody was using the term white. Him and Mackey and one more man started reestablishing the Scottish Rite nationality. He recognized that moral and national identity could not be reduced to skin color as you use, sir, the term white and black. Meanwhile, many of those who accuse him of white supremacy ironically continue to define themselves by color, calling others white, as you heard in the beginning of this video, while claiming moral superiority. Mr. Dollemore, your own surname Dollemore traces to French Norman ancestry. By original definition, you are a descendant of Europeans who arrived in the Americas, sir. To call yourself American, sir, while mocking others dishonors both your forefathers and the original inhabitants of this land. Some have cited a book written in 1924 by a woman more than 20 years after Pike had passed, claiming he was associated with the Klan. This book provides no sources, no documentation, no credible evidence. They claim that the original manuscripts, which have clarified his actions and intentions, were destroyed by Union soldiers during the Civil War. Yet this single unreferenced claim has been repeated for nearly a century, as if it were truth. This is not scholarship, this is slander. Furthermore, the law that was presented to justify the removal of his statue during the COVID pandemic explicitly cites support from Freemasons for its removal. This act, sanctioned by the Scottish Rite, dishonored Albert Pike, the very man who was central to their own history and legacy. To claim allegiance to Pike's name while supporting his public defamation is a betrayal. The removal of the statue was not a neutral act of historical reconciliation. It was an internal dishonor by those entrusted with his memory. Let us now consider the broader historical context. Mr. Dollemore, you claim to be a Christian and a Marine, yet the history of Christian Europeans in America and across the globe tells a story of conquest, invasion, and genocide. The same people who you trace your ancestors to. Those European crusaders and colonists did not find an empty land when they came here. They found a thriving civilization of nations with law, tradition, and sovereignty. And yet they imposed conquest, slavery, and colonization, and later created the same racial divisions that you now repeat. Every time you speak of white as a category, you perpetrate the very supremacist hierarchy that your ancestors created. And you continue today using the names that delude to slavery. Albert Pike, by contrast, sought to rise above these caste systems by identifying himself with nationality and independence. He identified with his lineage, pursued knowledge, and devoted his life to law, philosophy, and the advancement of humanity. He did not seek to dominate. He sought to understand and guide through principle and moral law. And yet today, his name is dragged through the mud. Lies about treason, white supremacy, and Klan affiliation circulate. False historical narratives are used to justify the removal of his statue. Accusations that ignore presidential pardons, sworn witness testimony, and destroyed historical documents are repeated as though they were facts. This is a violation not only of history, but of Albert Pike's constitutional right to reputation. A right secured by the Constitution itself. Every citizen has a right to honor and to legacy. Every descendant has the right to defend that honor. Mr. Dollemore, you have spoken publicly, labeling Pike as a traitor and a supremacist. You have spoken of administrations as white-faced, calling others by color, and continuing the very caste system Pike rejected. Yet you call him a white supremacist. You are pushing white supremacy, sir. You have misrepresented history, misused terminology, and dishonored the memory of a man who swore an oath to defend the Constitution publicly, the very same Constitution that secures your rights but did not give you authority to slander the dead. The truth is this: Pike was pardoned, sir. Witnesses verified his conduct at Pea Ridge. He rejected the color caste system of white and black. He lived as a Scottish national. He devoted his life to law, education, philosophical advancement. He was betrayed by those who claimed to carry his Masonic legacy. He was misinterpreted by authors decades after his passing who had no evidence to support their claims. And yet he remains a man of integrity whose honor and work must be recognized. I speak to you, Mr. Dollemore, and to all who have repeated these lies. It is time to study history with care. And all of this proof is on this channel, a YouTube channel. It is time to recognize that truth is not defined by rumor, prejudice, or political expediency. It is defined by evidence, law, and principle. Pike's life was a testament to law over chaos, knowledge over ignorance, and unity over division. And so I call for the restoration of Albert Pike's name, a call for an acknowledgement of constitutional rights, historical fact, and moral truth. Let the record reflect the pardon, the testimony, the rejection of racial hierarchy. It's very simple to understand. When Judge Taney put down the ruling that a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect, There was people that was going to continue calling themselves white and take advantage of these people. In the same year, Albert Pike went and found the Scottish Rite abandoned and began identifying with independence and nationality, not as white, because he did not wish to take advantage of people. He put out the pamphlets of the Judge Taney and all of the other res judicata stare decisis Supreme Court case law, letting everybody know the game to this caste system of white and black, and he did not wish to participate. Therefore, he started identifying with his nationality, his foremothers and forefathers' divine creed.